This is Cherie Ray. I'm a consultant and coach specializing in human potential and creativity. Thank you for taking time to view this video and this webinar on post-quarantine, getting back to it. I hope that you find helpful information that will serve you in having a smoother ride of life. Post-quarantine, getting back to it. Because a lot of people, it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. People have concerns. And so I was curious if that is on your mind too, or if it's not on your mind at all. Hey, Marcia.
It's on my mind because I have to go back to work Monday. And it'll be interesting to see, how it is with a bunch of people in a warehouse. I work for elections, so we spend a month preparing, and then we set up the election equipment. And yesterday I went to an outlet mall, went to a Nike store. And Sunday I'm going to a rally at the Capitol. So I'm getting back out.
So what is your what's your mind making of going back out? What's the flavor of what your mind's offering?
Excited.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just even though I'm making more money sitting at home on unemployment than my job pays, which is for a lot of people in the same situation. I'm making so much more money sitting at home. I'm just tired of being. I want to get out in the world and do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My favorite restaurant's opening back up Monday. There's some bar. I don't drink, but there's some places open, and you see people, spread out there. It's weird. I mean, the thing I want to do is get on an airplane, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm hoping for November.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not worried about catching it. I'm just, just on the unknown of what's going to happen later.
And where are you, Marcia?
Austin, Texas.
Are you not worried about the rising numbers in Texas?
In my county, I'm not. We've had so few deaths for our number of cases. I guess I'm not just because I don't know. I can't make myself worry about it. I just not, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a part of for the conversation today was first of all, just approaching the topic to see if that's weighing heavy on your mind, if it's weighing heavy on your mind, and to talk about how really how I'll say how detrimental it is to us as human beings to allow the unknown to weigh so heavy on our mind. Because and with this going back into, life as not as we know it, but I'll say it's life as we don't know it. I think it's part of the really part of the, if I dare say, the gift of this time is it's kind of requiring us to live more in the present moment, requiring us to step into the unknown on a more regular basis, consciously. I'll say consciously. We're always stepping into the unknown, but the truth is the mind tends to think yesterday could be like today, and today's going to be like tomorrow. So it oftentimes our mind suggests the sameness, but I think in this COVID situation, the sameness of life has been kind of like that tablecloth pulled off the table, kind of taken off and rearranged everything. And so, and that whether it's stepping back, or I should say stepping forward into getting back into life outside of quarantine, that this time can wake us up to really how much of our day-to-day bandwidth goes toward or gets occupied by things we don't have any control over. You know, how our mind will latch on to anything. It just happens that in this moment in time, it's got post-quarantine. But if we didn't have post-quarantine, if you've noticed how the mind always takes us beyond out into some sort of fantasy land because it's made up. And we can catch on to how much of our bandwidth is going to pondering future. And for human beings, typically, most human beings want a better feeling in life. They'd like to feel better more of the time. Does that resonate with you guys? Just feeling better more of the time. So, but one of those thieves, kind of invisible thief, is having a mind that's really being consumed with concerns that are not of this moment. Concerns not of this moment. So that to me encompasses like past, future, just topics that look like, I'll put it this way, not until we wake up from not having them on our mind do we realize how much they were on our mind. And I don't know if y'all have had those situations where all of a sudden something fell away and you didn't even realize it was like taking off a backpack of books you didn't even realize you were carrying. And what that does is it dumbs down our experience of life, because our experience is generated on the inside, not by circumstances. And as burdened as our mind might be on all these things that aren't happening in the moment, it weighs us down. It weighs us down. So in this COVID time, it kind of brings that to the surface and says, gosh, why do I need to have that on my mind? Because it will distract me from really listening to a larger intelligence in the moment. And secondly, it weighs you down from having a better feeling moment to moment. I just, and it came up this morning, and I think it's a real interesting aspect of the human mind is that I'll say the egoic nature of the human mind doesn't want a less burdened mind. And this has come up several times this week, and I think it's so interesting that a less burdened mind, the mind kind of freaks out about it. It gets fearful. It's like, well, if I don't stay on what concerns me, what's a familiar topic for me to be concerned with? I don't know what the unknown feels like. I'm not sure I like the feeling of the unknown. And I thought that was so fascinating that came up several times this week. So I thought I would bring it up in this conversation about what if stepping into the unknown post-COVID, because God, can you believe it? Next week is June. We went to sleep in February. We woke up in June. And that if really it's going to be, if we have understanding about this, that if I have less on my mind, I'm going to naturally feel better. But the mind makes up, the kind of the egoic conditioned mind makes up that, man, if I don't have that on my mind, I have to sit with nothing. And that's it's going to be scary. And it's like, no, it's peace. It really is peace. A less burdened mind is offering you peace. A more burdened mind is offering you chaos. So just let me just hear from you just in that. to kind of just hear if you heard of anything in that was makes sense or is helpful before we just cruise on down to other points I was hoping to share.
I tell Lisa that her audio is not on.
Oh, thank you. You could see my lips moving.
We could, yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Lisa.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm on my way home from the grocery store, so but I can definitely relate to like the idea that you have to be on guard, which makes me feel like my mind is, trying to defend myself against this unknown craziness, and it wastes a lot of energy. Feels like a lot of energy. I have to go back into people's homes right now and measure for them, and I just have little boundaries. Like, I'm not afraid. I just say, I'm going to be wearing a mask, and I appreciate it if you would, and keep the distance. And I found out that there's some people who refuse, and then they can go hit the road as far as I'm concerned, because I have to go into a lot of people's homes, and I don't want to be spreading something to everybody's home, and I don't know. So it's all such an unknown. So I just ask for little boundaries when I work, and hope that, people understand, and most people do. But hopefully, who knows? I mean, you don't know what the future is. It could change tomorrow. So it's not worth, getting too upset about it, I guess. So I guess
it's not known until it's happening in real time.
Yeah.
It's not known.
Yeah. But you could feel that whole like low level anxiety all the time. I think I feel like a little bit where everything's kind of a little bit on edge, and you just don't know where it's going to go. But I'm not going to like feed into that, like I do other stuff in order to, counterbalance that, meditation or art or, calling people or whatever is helpful, or reading, or, things like that. So that's where I try to remain most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else?
Where is Lisa? Where are you, Lisa?
Hey, I'm in Kittery, Maine.
Ah, okay.
In Maine. South, the very southeast corner of Maine, right above New Hampshire. New Hampshire.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Marcia.
I just wanted to add, sorry, I know I'm double dipping. It's not going out to work and stuff, like, just like Lisa said, I have my boundaries. I have my mask, I have my gloves, my sanitizer. And there is a nervousness because every time I go out someplace, I'm really aware of, like, recently somebody stood too close to me and I got irritated. I just get irritated when, and I realized when I said I was going to a rally at the Capitol, I wanted to make clear I'm not going to one of those tiki torch, rallies. I'm going to a Black Lives Matter rally, so I didn't want people to think I was on the wrong side of things. So anyway,
but to that place about in your mind, what I'm pointing to too is, like, the clearer your mind is, what occurs to you from a clearer mind is going to be more on your behalf than just being reactive to a very worried mind. So I say that in a way of, like, okay, say you're walking toward a rally. If you're really present in the moment, you're gonna get information that says this is either a good idea or a bad idea. If it's too burdened up here and you're too distracted, you're not going to hear information that's relevant to you in the moment. Does that sound too woo-woo, or does that make sense? Okay. So that's what I'm saying. We have an intelligence system that really does work on our behalf, that if we allow ourselves the opportunity to live with a less burdened mind, you're going to have the opportunity to hear wisdom that's relevant in the moment and not historic, not fear-based. It's going to be relevant and alive to what's happening at the time, alive information. Because that reactivity comes from I'll say like the conversation around expectations. It's like if the mind has made up how it's supposed to be and it gets reactive to your own expectations, yeah, you may be alive, but you're totally in relationship to what your mind has made up about this moment in time. You're not in life as it's happening. You have to get past your own your reaction to what's your state of mind, and then you'll get connected to life. Post-COVID, a gift of post-COVID is, and I'm not discounting any of the hardships that people have had, but I often feel like evolution takes strange faces. You know, societies have had to endure crazy things, but I believe it evolves a population, it evolves humanity, and it's not always tidy and nice and pleasant, and but at some altitude it's necessary. Not the altitude I fly at, but at some altitude it must be necessary because it happens. So if we play with re-engaging in life, going back out into life more as an explorer, I'll say, more as in I don't know and that's not a problem, more as in I don't know and the fact I don't know doesn't say anything about me. It really is saying that I'm getting very real about life, because nobody knows. And if they say they know, they don't. Because it hasn't happened. You know, you can't prepare for the unknown so much that you're not going to stump your toe. Can't happen.
I guess I'm not understanding what you're talking about, because I thought I did, but you're talking about, and I don't know how many of the people who are in this webinar are actively going back out, in a major way yet. And I know I'm going to be the least of these. We're hiding out. And I'm in a state that has fewer cases than anywhere else in the country. Mm-hmm. My county has not had a single case documented. Mm-hmm. But we're not about to get out. But I guess what I don't understand is that as I read, I have a limit to how much news I take in every week, but that limit does include, where are the hot spots emerging, where do the rates seem particularly high, and that changes week to week. But the idea of going out without making a plan, I don't understand that.
I'll say if making a plan is the same thing as doing what makes sense to you, if it doesn't make sense to you to go out, don't go out. You see what I mean? But I'm saying in that place of you can rely on your inner wisdom. If you're saying watch the news, watch the news. You see?
You're not advocating that people just go on out and see what happens, no matter where they live.
No, not at all.
That's why I was getting confused.
No, I'm saying that that it's not to be reckless by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm saying that you don't have to overburden your mind or be disappointed that February's life is not here today. Gotcha. That you have to wear, that say you go to a building and you have to wear a mask. It's like, well, be open to wearing the mask, explore that instead of making that a problem.
Gotcha. Okay, now I'm following you. Sorry.
Yeah, and it needs to make sense to you. I know some people that don't see any concern. They don't have nothing on their mind about hopping on a plane, and that's with a mask. And I mean, they're not ignoring what is being asked of them, but it's interesting they don't have anything on them. But and so it's like there's a way to me to navigate smart in a sense of doing what makes sense to you, which is not being reckless. It's really tuning into you and saying, I don't care what the world's doing. It makes sense to me to stay right here in quarantine and come out when it makes sense to me. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying allow yourself to be inwardly guided about what makes sense to you, and to not expect the world of February, of what was here in February, to be here now. And not allow that to disturb your peace so much, going, wait a minute, that was then, this is now. If I'm expected to wear a mask, then great, put on the mask. I hear people echoing all the time going, well, I remember the day when so-and-so, and we didn't have to do such and such. It's like, well, okay. But but here's today.
Yeah.
You see, here's today. And it's like, how can I be more open about what today is asking of you? And what makes sense to you today? And to be able to go post-COVID out into the world, and I'll say a more peaceful, centered, grounded place, instead of just going out into the world reactive to what your state of mind is stirred up with right now. Yes, Marsha.
Well, and I think everybody should just do what feels right to them. And everybody I know is just like in their house, never leaving. I mean, that's all the people I know. I don't post when I go anywhere because I'll be, group shamed by everybody. But I'm being careful. I'm jealous of people getting on planes. I just don't know where to go. I don't know I'd love to go to. The only place I want to go is like a bad hotspot. So, and my trip in July got canceled, so I had to cancel. Just trying to get back money from a hotel in Amsterdam that was really expensive. But yeah, I'm glad it's not going to be like February. I think it's going to be different. I think it's going to be interesting.
I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be fresh.
I don't care about that. I'm so used to wearing a mask when I go outside that I just sometimes I forget to take it off.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little hot here for one, but
mm-hmm.
I'm about to go have a massage, and the rule. I mean, I have to wear gloves and a mask, and she's got gloves and a mask.
But that part about what if going post-COVID, re-entering life however it makes sense to you, could be a fresh experience and not stepping out into the world in fear. And a lot of times people don't realize that grounded centeredness is on offer at every moment, and that they really feel like fear is the only option here. And it's like, no. You can be smart, you can be responsible, you can be grounded, and you can be centered. You do not have to allow fear to, fear is not inevitable. There's an element of free will in how we use this tool of our mind. Our mind is a tool. Our mind truly is a tool to the spiritual nature of life, and it's how do we want to use it? But we've been on kind of, I'll say just innocently, we have lacked understanding around that our mind is a tool and how do I want to use it? Because we just lacked understanding on that. But few people realize that their natural state of being is peaceful. They think they have to work at being peaceful. And it's like, no, that's your natural state of being. If your mind is less burdened, your natural state of being is more peaceful. Yes, Phyllis, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I've been hesitant to share because Marsha brought up the shame, factor. Massage therapists, here in Texas were allowed to start practicing, was it last Friday? Or maybe it was the Friday before that. Anyway, you're talking about the mind thing and the, issue. My background was I was a science teacher, so I understand about viruses and how they work and, so on. We used to do experiments, on the different types of things like Clorox and Lysol and rubbing alcohol and all these things, hydrogen peroxide, to see which ones were most effective. So I have that knowledge and I have that background. And I actually went through hell, with my mind being fearful, and I really wanted to get back to work. And so I finally had to, quiet my mind and say, okay, what do I know to do? And there were protocols coming out too through these massage associations that I am a part of. And so it's like, okay, what am I comfortable in doing is what I finally had to ask myself. And so I decided I know how to clean everything. I know how to sanitize. I don't want to spread this to anyone. That's never, I think, anyone's intention. And it was like, I can go take the test and see if I have this virus. So I did, and I didn't have it. So I decided I've done everything practical that I can do to protect myself and to protect my, clients. And my clients, when they come in, some of them have actually had the test. Now, I realize once you've had the test, you can still contract the virus. But I went through, like I said, hell, trying to decide and make a decision on whether to do this, because even though they say you can, this is a little nano, particle that can be passed. It doesn't matter if you have a mask on. What stops the mask, if you have it yourself and you have the mask on, it can, contain the spread somewhat, just like if you sneeze or cough into your shoulder. If two people have the mask on, it's less likely. I'm sure you've seen all the statistics and all that other stuff. But these are nanoparticles. They can come through a mask. So a mask is basically something that is a comfort to you and makes you feel like, you're safe. Even those N95 masks that they have, those are not 100% guaranteed that they'll protect you, from catching the virus. You have to have a higher grade one, kind of like what the military has for what they call germ warfare. And with that being said, I still feel like it's my social duty to wear a mask. My clients wear a mask when they come in, and I have them. I have gloves on when they first come in, and I try not to touch anything. I've sanitized everything I can possibly think of, to try and keep them safe. And I've just had to, because I don't want to harm anybody, and I don't want to be harmed, and I don't want to be careless. So what I've come to terms with is I can only do what I know to do and do the best I can to protect them and to protect myself. And that's my post experience. And I know some people think I'm crazy, but I don't know what to say about that.
Well, I think that what you're pointing to, Phyllis, is so helpful, is that a burdened mind moves nothing. You see what I mean? A burdened mind takes any clarity you could possibly have on a subject and distances you from clarity. It doesn't bring it. So in that place of like, okay, when we free our mind up, we see what is the most simple, easy next step for me. The most, and you ask that to yourself, what's the easy, simple next step for me? But that quagmire that we can live in, swim in, stay in, of just, I'll call it, it's even another way of saying it is like ambiguity. You're just kind of running scenarios. And we think running scenarios helps us vet to a solution, and which would vet to clarity. But it's exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. A burdened mind distances you from clarity. It doesn't bring you closer.
Well, that's, that was what I felt like, I got clarification once I let my mind, or quit letting my mind run amok.
Exactly.
And I'm going to tell you, I got real depressed, and I felt dead inside at one point. And I was like, something has got to change. And, I can't explain all the things that happened, but it was like I have my moments where I meditate, and I talk to God on a regular basis. And when I finally said, I feel dead inside, I just kind of let go of everything. And that's when the clarity and all that, these things started coming in. Well, you can do this and you can do that. And, this will be a good way to, to approach things. And like you said, I was able to, clear out all the fear for a moment. It's not that I'm ignoring it and that I don't think this, I've known 6 people who've had it, and I've known one person that passed away because of it. So I take it very seriously. I just, but it got down to, do you let fear run your life, or do you do, the things to do and practice that, and, kind of bring some meaning back into your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in that place of like engage with life in a way that makes sense to you. And engage with life in a way that makes sense to you. It doesn't need to make sense to anybody else. Doesn't need to make sense to anybody else. And that also is an invitation for you to have more autonomy within yourself. It's like, this is what makes sense to me. You don't have to explain that to anybody or defend it to anybody.
I know, but it's just hard putting yourself out there, because everybody has their own ideas and everybody's at a different place, and the fear factor and what their mind is doing.
Right.
And I'm not making anybody wrong. It's just, it's just, that's the way that it is, and I don't.
If you look at it too, Phyllis, it's like really, this is a pandemic with an infectious disease, but it's really an invitation philosophically to live. And that way, you really say that's really life as a whole. What makes sense to you? Clarity within you, being in the present moment, as cliche as that sounds, but to be in life in the present moment and to get on to the I'll say the detriment of a heavy burdened mind, because we think that's going to help, but it drops our experience of life, and it creates chaos, not clarity. We go in the opposite direction of what we want. And then as a result, we end up kind of steeped in fear much more than we would choose. Because it's like you can be smart and you can be present. You can be responsible and be present and grounded. I say, gosh, even the illusion that we can get everything right and be safe forever. All we can do is show up and do the best we can do with what makes sense to us to do in the moment. I don't mean that to sound cavalier, but I really mean that in a very realistic sense of like, do what makes sense to you, but we can't protect ourselves from somebody running a red light or, but we're smart. We try to stay present.
I just want to add a little exercise that I do sometimes when I'm feeling really overwhelmed, and I'll just fall on the bed or right before bed, whatever it is. And I just, or sit or what, it doesn't matter what I do physically, but I listen to my head. I just listen to it. And oh my God, it's so crazy. I mean, because I'll be thinking about yesterday, I'll be thinking about tomorrow. I have the same thoughts going over and over and over, how to solve something or whatever. And I'm like, I'm just sitting here. I can't do any of that right now anyway. So who the hell cares? Like, so I guess it's just been a good exercise for me to like listen to my head and to just see all the crap that goes through it most of the time. I almost just give up on it. I'm just like, all right, just forget about it. You know, just do what you need to do and be organized as you can for today. And I've been trying to, you know, leave and go across the country with my trailer for 3 years now, right? The first year I was so disappointed. Oh my God. The second year I'm like, oh, whatever. I have this other stuff going on. I have to take care of my dad. That's fine. This year I'm like, just prepare, and then if it happens, it happens. And don't put all of my heart and soul into whether it happens or not. Just prepare for it day by day. And that works so much better for me because I can't control it. I can't control things. That's all I want to say.
Well, no, and to Lisa's point is like you have your own wisdom that will inform you of what will be in support of you. That's what I love about it. You have your own guidance system inside you that will say, you know, whatever, it will make a suggestion to you on some level. But people don't even believe and trust they have their own guidance system inside. They think they have to find it outside them. It's like, no, just see what comes. And don't discount something as simple as like lay on the bed and watch the crazy stuff. Well, look at the miles per hour your mind is running. But whatever it is that occurs to you, if that's the easy next step, do the easy next step. That's very present moment, non-distracted. Use the tools that are designed inside you that you have, that, or maybe you don't know you have, but you do have an incredible system of resilience, wisdom that will serve up if you just call on it. We don't know we have it. It's invisible to us. Marcia, what were you going to say?
You just said something that it never occurred to me. I mean, I thought everybody had their own like feeling about how to act in any situation. And you were saying, don't get your information outside of you. I mean, who gets their information outside of them?
Well, I'm saying that oftentimes people believe that fearful situations require you to operate in fear. And it's like, no, fear is optional. But not that, while that seems obvious to a lot of us, it's not.
I guess I don't have any experience with that. I've been confused this whole hour.
Well, good for you.
Good for you. Yeah, kudos.
It just sounds like you're talking about common sense. Like,
I know, it is so common. It's so common we forget it. It's kind of my job to remind us of what we naturally possess that we get separate from.
Well, I get it. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of Phyllis's situation here. You know, I go get my food out of the back end of a hotel. I don't go to the grocery store. And even then, I'm wearing gloves and a mask. Well, I'm in a place where everyone else essentially thinks, unless they're older and have health issues and you just don't see them. But everybody who's out here, they're walking around just like they were before. They don't think there's anything to worry about because there's so few cases. So you're saying that just because I'm telling myself, because I feel like I need to wear a mask, you're talking about that little voice that goes like, okay, these people think you're nuts. All right.
Yeah, but who cares?
Yeah. But so we're still doing it. You know, we're older and we have health issues. So we're doing it anyway, because that's kind of
what makes sense to you.
And the jury's still out. I mean, we don't know if there'll be another surge here because now everybody is lined up shoulder to shoulder and back in the bar.
Where are you at, Janet?
We're in Big Timber, Montana.
Oh, that's right, Montana.
Yeah, so there have been no cases in this county, and now that the governor acted early, now that it's all open back up again,
Yeah.
And it's just kind of it is literally the Wild West out here, because people are not, they say they're social distancing, but they're not really.
But see, even in this, on this topic of COVID and quarantine, it's like so little is proven. So that's why it's even more of a reason to rely on your inner guidance and what makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Regardless of what others are doing, it's like, do what makes sense to you, and allow yourself to explore any time beyond, to this moment and beyond is fresh, not fear, just fresh, and not comparing it to other times. Because in the same topic of comparing, it's like comparing is a complete energy drain. Fear is an energy drain. And you can be smart and present and responsible and do what makes sense to you. It's when you lay it out there, just like Marsha was saying, it's like, well, this is common sense. Smart, responsible, do what makes sense to you. It's like, great. And it doesn't have to be done in fear.
But to play devil's advocate to my own self, this is also a situation that requires not my common sense, but professionals' opinions,
And
experts' opinions.
And you have to listen and see what resonates and makes sense to you. And if it's mandated, you got to do it even if it doesn't make sense to you. Mandated situations.
I mean, everyone has been sitting in their house by themselves for 3 months. I mean, that's what we're doing.
I know. It's just an individual thing. So hopefully from the conversation, if there's if anything in the conversation supports you in feeling more hopeful or more free, more exploratory, that would be my hope. That it's not about just living in a fear state of booga booga. That's not good for physically. Truly, that compromises your immune system. From what the physicians I've talked to, it's like having blown out adrenals compromises your immune system. So how can we be smart, responsible, relaxed, and do what makes sense to us? And that's, to me, the best you can do in any situation.
I just want to add that this staying home and not working has been the best thing that ever happened to me. It's horrible what's happening on the outside. I am saddened beyond compare by it, but for me, it's been the best thing that's ever happened, because I've started doing things that I really want to do, and I'm just lucky that way, and feeling freer about my life, because I can choose things that I love, and it's focusing in on what really matters in life to me right now, and a lot of people, I think, are having just sitting with oneself and paying attention to what I, want to do with my life at this point in time is the best thing in the world.
That's a great way of saying that. It's an opportunity for an upgrade, just an internal upgrade about how you want to live your life and how you want to engage with the world.
I'm with you, Lisa.
Yes. Oh, Natalie?
Me too.
Let me unmute you. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Oh, hi, everybody. Thank you for letting me come on. I saw this, and I'm in Connecticut, Eastern time. I thought, oh, I'm too late. And I thought, oh, I'm going to come on. So thank you.
Oh,
really,
welcome.
It's so good to hear people talking about their fears, because it is, it's a world pandemic, and I feel I'm also I'm in the process of moving by August 1st. So I didn't know that this would be happening at the time of my move, but I just wanted to share. I heard something recently about the feminine, how the feminine energy, like in that man that followed his intuition on the plane, it kind of comes up, and it's and if I don't let fear get in the way, it has a very fluidness to it, and it's intuitive, and it's often playful, but when I let the fear come in, I can feel it shut down. And when I try to paint from that fearful place, sometimes it helps and it breaks things open, and I feel, that aliveness again and that flow, but many times it doesn't. So it's usually a metaphor for me in my life, like, oh, I'm in fear in my life right now. And because when I noticed in the pandemic, the times that I've felt joyful and I've gone to the painting, it is like, it flows like crazy. So my mantra now is, because the fear just feels so close all the time, just to say, I'm kind of I say God has got this, because it's much bigger than me, and it's actually forcing me to trust on a level that I have never had in my entire life, and to let go. Because if I reach for any of those things that I'm fearful about, I'm just, I'm in the refrigerator stuffing, or I'm in bed with the covers on my head. And, I'm really doing it on a daily practice. And I'm making sure that I do surround myself with some people who feel the same way, because I am very susceptible to, hearing too much of, the news or that kind of thing. But it's interesting how the art is such a refuge right now, just profound. And I almost have to make myself go to it, because it's like, oh, it's not very important. But honestly, it's the most important thing, because it's the connection to trust, and to still play, and still, it makes me even like emotional, like still, at any time in the planet, this would be the time to stay close to it. Anyways, that's just my thought. That's why I couldn't wait to get on and I feel and hear you.
No, I couldn't agree more. And to me, I find it fascinating how resistant the mind is to you getting to a creative endeavor, whatever it is. And it's like, how come we're not getting onto that? It's like getting onto the resistances. That tells me I need to be there more than, as great as the resistance is. That means I need to be in it as strong as the resistance is. It's like jump in, because all that fear is going to have to take a back seat, because you're going to drop into a much bigger space than the fear factor, so to speak. And so that's why the resistance is so great. It's like, it doesn't want to get in the back seat. It likes to be in the driver's seat. So I don't know why we're not more suspicious of the resistance and going, oh yeah, okay, that's a sign to go forward. Okay, yeah, okay, not stop, go forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Thank you for listening to this webinar on getting back to it post-quarantine. We hope you found something that is helpful, beneficial, and that woke up the truth in you.